right, good morning and welcome to dinCloud's Windows Server 2003 End of Support webinar. Joining us today, we have a panel of cloud specialists who will detail how cloud can help alleviate Windows Server 2003 pain points. We're going to get right into our main presentation in just a few moments, but first I have a few housekeeping items. Should you have any questions during our webcast today, please enter them in the questions box on your GoToWebinar dashboard. All of our lines are muted, this is the way to get your questions to us. I will relay these questions to our speakers this morning at the end of their presentations today. We will have a dedicated Q&A session where they will answer your questions live, so we do encourage you to take advantage of that. We also send a survey out at the end of this webinar. Please fill out the survey, let us know how we did and topics you'd like to see on future webinars. It will come to you about 2 hours after the webcast concludes today. Lastly, we are recording this webinar and we'll have it available for playback by the end of this week if you want to go back and reference any of the content covered today. Recordings are posted to dincloud.com/webinars along with our upcoming webinar schedule. Now we'll introduce our cloud panel for today, and with a quick roll call, joining us today we have myself as the moderator, Ali Din, our CMO, Walid Elamari, VP of Product Development, and Baron Walt and Michael Hull, Windows Server 2003 Migration Specialist. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. There we go. I think we had some lines needed.
Good morning,
so
Baron.
Thank you for that. Good morning. So before we jump in, I'll give you a brief overview of dinCloud for those of you who are not or may not be familiar with us. dinCloud is a cloud services provider that helps organizations rapidly migrate their entire IT infrastructure to the cloud. Our business provisioning includes migration of desktops, servers, storage, networking, and applications to a virtual private data center. Now, if this webinar sparks an interest for you today, please visit dincloud.com for more information and assistance with Windows Server 2003 migrations or any other cloud needs. Now, without further ado, we'll jump right into the topic at hand today, which we're alluding to with this very dramatic image here, which is Windows Server 2003 End of Support. So, as many of you know, support is ending next July, or this coming July, just in less than a month. So we'll start with why migrate. You've likely heard the hype and the risks associated with maintaining a Windows Server 2003 server after end of support next month, and perhaps the two most stringent security risks are going to be security and compliance. So to cover that, I will have Ali Din, our CMO, chime in here, and while we're transitioning over to him, we're going to launch another quick poll. So definitely let us know if any of the following industry regulations apply to you and your organization, and he can help address those if that is the case.
If you could take a moment now to go ahead and check off these poll questions. You can check more than one at a time. And then we'll submit and we'll keep going.
We'll just give it another couple seconds. Okay, so it looks like we've got the majority submitted. So I can actually share the results now so you can see this up on the screen. So it looks like pretty much everything other than FSMA is coming into play today. So we have PCI, HIPAA, and Sarbanes-Oxley, and of course some non-applicables as well. So that can help inform the compliance consideration that we'll cover now.
Okay, great. I'll just wait for the good picture of the conspiracy theory here on the end is near. And again, as Nancy mentioned, there's a couple things to think about with Windows Server 2003. Now, if you go with continuing with Windows Server, there's a couple things to think about as new upgrades of Windows Server 2016 is coming out soon, and even the next version on. What's going to happen is patches and upgrades and bugs are going to be found, and these are going to get patched by Microsoft on newer versions of Windows Server. And what happens is, as people determine how the patch works, they'll reverse engineer it, and then they'll find those same vulnerabilities within Windows Server 2003, which of course are not being patched. And so that's where it leaves a lot of exposure to your organization if you maintain 2003 as your operating system or Small Business Server as your operating system. And this, of course, with HIPAA and High Tech Act from HIPAA or the PCI, compliance requirements, obviously, that you can't have. But even just without those requirements, it's something you really should take a hard look at. So again, I just wanted to welcome everyone to today's webinar and appreciate you being on. Just kept the background noise just so you could see that the end truly may be near. And we'll hand it back over.
All right, thank you, Ali. So with that, where does that leave us with your options? So moving on to the next slide here, going back actually one slide. So of course, doing nothing is always an option, but that would of course open you and your infrastructure up to the aforementioned risk. So for another viable option, there is the option to upgrade and move to a supported OS, which will also involve an upgrade to server hardware. Now, with this option, legacy infrastructure will be less vulnerable in the long term. And those who go this route will have to resolve any resulting errors in a live environment as well. So ultimately, where this leaves us is this is a very high-cost, high-risk option that ultimately lacks flexibility. So that leaves us with option 3. And that last option is the cloud, and that's, of course, what we'll be covering here today as the viable and long-term solution which we can look to. Now, going back to timelines and costs for your migration option. So as we've mentioned, you're already too late and it's too expensive. So where does this leave you? Now, the average migration takes, depending on scenarios, 200 days. So with the end of support deadline set for July 14th, we're now less than 30 days away from this end of support deadline. And with the average migration scenario coming into play, you would have had to start 170 days ago. Now, for those of you who don't act in time, you'll face a $600 per server charge from Microsoft for extended support. Now, obviously, we don't want to leave you with this additional cost. So in light of all that, what are your options? So covering cloud strategy today are my colleagues Baron Walt and Michael Hull, who specialize in Windows Server 2003 migrations. So with that, Michael will hand over the reins to you. If you would please take it away.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Okay, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the actual process of the migration. And it may be too late, but I don't think it is. We can make this happen fairly quickly for some of the smaller migrations, and the more complex ones, they do take a little bit of time. So the path to migration, we've broken it down, as you can see on these slides, into 4 steps: discovery, assessment, target, and migration. By far the most important is the discovery process. We have to identify, catalog all of your software and your workloads to determine how you're actually using your Windows 2003 server and how it fits in your environment. The assessment is to determine how to categorize these applications and what we can do to move them to current technologies. So part of that, some individual servers may need to target multiple servers, but we'll identify your target destinations, and then we'll actually do the migration, make the move. As I said before, the discovery process is the most important part. We're going to catalog that all of your software and your workloads. Whether you choose to do this yourself with a self-discovery or use dinCloud's managed services for a worry-free migration, we can provide a managed discovery process. And now, when we actually do the discovery process, we're going to provide some sort of documentation. This table on your screen here breaks down different applications, some example scenarios here into what kind of applications they are, whether they're Microsoft server roles, third-party applications, or custom applications. And custom applications are really the piece that have kept a lot of Windows 2003 servers alive, or even third-party applications that with discontinued support. So we pay close attention to those pieces. So the next step would actually be to assess the items discovered. And again, the Microsoft server roles, those are an easy piece to migrate. We consider those part of a basic migration. Then there's some more complex Microsoft applications. Microsoft's done a little bit of rebranding. Some pieces are named something different. So that's something to be aware of. Where it gets to be a little more complex are the custom applications and the third-party applications. So we're going to actually categorize each of these items in different categories, whether they're mission critical or just important, or important to your organization, whether they're marginal importance, or they can actually be retired. Many services can actually be retired or at least replaced with more of an all-inclusive solution or different. So each item is going to have its own complexity and therefore risk. Many items are low risk and low complexity. Those are great, really easy to move. The medium items, we need a little bit more planning and forethought. And the high risk items, mission critical items, are things that are critical to your organization's workflow, and examples could be Microsoft Exchange. I can give you an example of a mission critical item that we just faced in a Windows 2003 migration. We had a Radius server running on a Windows 2003. In 2003, it's called IAS. In 2008 and 2012, it's called Network Policy Services, NPS. And in this case, that was the only reason that the Windows 2003 server was running. And we were able to easily migrate that to Windows 2012 server. And it was a quick 4 to 5 hour migration. So again, we'll categorize all these things, the same table as before. You can see the different components in the example there, and the complexity and the risk. And this is a back and forth process with your either your IT staff or your administrative staff, depending on the type of organization. So when we after we assess them, we will actually determine whether we're going to migrate items as is, find alternative applications. Sometimes people choose to use software as a service models. And then back to the custom applications or third-party applications. Sometimes it's necessary to modify, rewrite, or refactor, and those are things that we can help you identify. And for some of those, you may need to virtualize small components of it or place shims in. The most common scenario by far is upgrading to a newer version. Most vendor-supported applications now support at least Windows 2008, so it's usually an easy migration. And again, we'll refer back to the table here and categorize all the examples, determining which targets are going to receive your different pieces of applications, whether it's going to go on DIN Server Windows, DIN Server Linux, maybe a hosted Exchange environment, or D3 storage for storage needs. And we'll determine whether those applications need to be migrated as is, or there's a conversion process. But again, we document throughout the whole process, so it's clear and the path is well explained. Again, we'll target the destination. I think Waleed will give us a demonstration of the different components to DIN manage.
Thank you very much, Michael. So the great strategy, by the way, and is very sought out process. So the question becomes, how do we manage our existing infrastructure today in the cloud? And how do you mitigate risk? How do you move from 2003 to 2008, 2012 servers? How do you orchestrate a lot of the different operational processes that goes into managing an infrastructure in the virtual world? dinCloud has invested a tremendous amount of money and effort over the last 3 years to figure this out, and we have came up with a tool that is free to all our customers today. It's called Inmanish. You can go to shop.dincloud.com and you can check it out and register for a free account immediately, and you'll be up and running. Today, Inmanish is a tool that gives you the ability to really manage your infrastructure end-to-end. That goes from security to IP addressing, to networking, to VPN tunnels, to Active Directory management. We also have several different products that you might be interested in as well. We have a DS3 product, which is focused on data backup, data storage, DNS. We allow you to manage your DNS through this tool. We also offer Linux hosting and desktop. That's our flagship products today. But the main product today that we're really focused on is really the server product that we have at dinCloud. So there's several different products that we have today. We're probably the first cloud company to launch the 2002 R2 data center server in the cloud today. We also have 2008 R2 data center, x64, and just a standard plain vanilla 2012 64-bit server without the DC in it. These products are available today. You can go to shop.dincloud.com and order them. It's pretty simple to actually order something versus different cloud providers that you got to order an instance and it's going to be monitored by the hour and so forth. We just made it very simple to our customers. Today we have several data centers. We have U.S. Central and U.S. West in the United States. This is your product, a 2012 server. We make it easy for you to just enter numbers as far as the resources that you want to allocate for the specific server for CPUs and so forth. And you can add storage, add a specific license if you need an SSL certificate on the server. If you need some antivirus protection on the server, you can also purchase it from this tool. This is your summary of the order that is being processed. One of the cool things that we do, we actually prorate our servers, so you don't have to pay the whole months, but we prorate it, so you're covered on that. So now the question becomes, how do you actually manage this specific environment? dinManage today has several different sections in our website. We have a dashboard where you can actually get a really holistic overview of your whole environment today, if you will. You can see your servers, whether it's Linux or Windows. You'll know how many you got. Desktop, we have two flavors of desktop. One is called dinHVD, and the other one is a WebHVD, which is a web desktop that you can actually log on through the web browser and play with your application, Outlook, and so forth. Then you got your DS3 storage as well. If you want to push terabytes and terabytes of data up to dinCloud, you're able to do this through this tool. But you can also manage your servers. If I click on this very quick, you can manage your servers. So it's pretty organized in the sense where you can actually manage each server. HS stands for hosted server. The 1 is the actual number of the server name. You can give it a label. So if this is a 2003 server or 2012 or whatever, you can say, this is my SQL server. And from there you click save it. It's done. But now it's like these are the different functions that you can do within the server. You can do a remote console into the server. You can power it off, restart the server. You can upgrade the resources. An example would be, I want to upgrade my C drive from 60 gig hard drive to 120 gig hard drive. You go through here. You can also upgrade your memory, your CPU from here. You can change the actual console password, and you can also deprovision. Deprovision is actually a cool tool, and what it allows you to do, it allows you to deprovision the machine. We don't delete it, but we keep the machine deprovisioned for 15 days. After the 15 days, the actual machine actually gets deleted. The reason we do that as an offering, because a lot of customers sometimes make mistakes, where they say, oh, I accidentally deleted my machine, I need it restored, and you would go into my deprovision section in the dashboard, and there you would restore the machine. So this is the deprovision section. I don't have anything in here, but normally you would see your machines in this section, and you can click on a button right here that says restore the machine. The other thing that we thought about when we originally built the tool was, how do customers actually going to manage their network and infrastructure? So today, the traditional network, you got your layer 2, layer 3 networks. You also have your firewalls. You have your VPN, IPsec VPN, and so forth. And you got your public segment. That's your internet pipe that connects directly to your infrastructure today. and your IP address. dinCloud is one of the biggest providers that own a BGP network in the United States. We have plenty of public IPs, and these IPs are routable between our data center, which means that if the public segment goes down, we can always fail over to our other data center, and we won't have any interruptions in our internet access. So this is automated, so we don't necessarily have outages, but it's there just in case if there's an outage or so. So my security is actually your own firewall. So when you sign up with dinCloud, we give you a dedicated firewall. This dedicated firewall has have several interfaces on it. One is the public segment interface, which is these are the IP address. The other one is the internal interfaces. So the internal interfaces is the layer 3 subnet, and you can have up to 5 of those. So you can have different subnets on each interface. So for example, if I want to you know, add a new network, we're going to say 172.16.0.0/24. Give it a name. We're going to so this is my desktop. Sorry. This is my desktop subnet, and just hit submit. The system will automatically automatically add that subnet to the system, and you'll be able to actually use it. So let me go back. I really don't want to add another one because this is my other environment that I'm using. But in any case, so you have up to 5 different subnets. You can buy additional IPs if you will, if you need to buy public IPs and so forth. The second thing that you could do is this virtual firewall is you can actually add one-to-one NAT. So if you have a web server, if you have a database server that you need to allow access from the internet and so forth, you can come here. Very, very simple. You pick the IP address that you want to allow access to. You pick the different the application or the server that you want to open ports on, and from there you put the TCP or UDP port, and from there you're done. You know, you're ready to go. So I'm not going to do that. So this is what we call the one-to-one NAT or port. Some people call it ports and so forth. So VPN is kind of the same thing. If you want to establish a VPN tunnel, you can have unlimited VPNs. We don't actually charge you for it. So this is something that is a differentiator with dinCloud versus other cloud providers. It's all IPsec VPN. All you have to do is come here, click Add VPN. Just fill out the information, the destination, which is obviously your headquarters, and you just need to fill out the form with your security person, and you're good to go. The VPN will be established. You also have different tools. If you have different requirement, for example, if you want us to manage your Active Directory, you can do it from the tool. This tool actually allows you to do several things. You can join the virtual desktop to your existing Active Directory, if you will. The other thing is you can do DNS hosting with us. My library is if you have your own golden images. So for example, if you have a 2008 server that is a golden image, you can save it under my library. DNS is another product. If you're interested in doing SSO between dinCloud and whatever application that you have, you can actually use our DNS product today. So there's a lot of stuff within the tool, and it's very intuitive. We have a lot of documentation. We have some videos on the internet that you can go through, and I encourage you to get a free account today at shop.dincloud.com. And if you have any questions, you can email our support staff, which is 24/7 at support@dincloud.com, or call our main number, and someone will be able to guide you through the whole process. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Nancy.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So we're just going to switch your views real quick and go back to our main screen. All right, and with that, I will actually bring in Baron Walt to close us out with the remainder of our presentation.
Hello, this is Baron Walt. I am a dinCloud migration specialist and also support specialist. I'm going to get to the right slide here. Okay, there we go. As we talked about previously with our other panelists, we talked about doing it yourself, managing the workload of the whole process that we talked about, the discovery, the migration, or what we have is the managed migration that dinCloud can provide. With either one of those, you're still going to have a planning phase and execution phase. Planning phase obviously being the assessment, discovery, and then the execution of being your target and your migration. This next slide. Oh, there we go. Mike also talked about our managed migration scenarios here that I'm going to kind of cover. You have your basic migration, and these times, of course, are just approximates. You can see that they have been from a very small time to upwards of 300 plus hours, depending on the complexity of your applications. The basic migration would be your straight file migrations, or as we talked about, your DNS, your DHCP, your Active Directory, your Radius type services. In your application server migration, which is sort of like the middle of complexity, we have your vendor-supported applications. That's sort of like your QuickBooks or your Mass 90s, things of that nature, where we're going to actually do a reinstall of this system and do the data migration for you. And that also, that also includes the SQL databases and things of that nature. Under the complex migration, we're talking about no vendor support. There's no documentation. The applications that were probably written for your organization that may no longer be around. The more complex things such as Exchange, maybe IAS, you're running with some .NET in the background. So that would be your critical gaps, obviously. Oh, there we go. So how do you manage your technology? Now at dinCloud, we have a kind of a three-tiered managed service that we're providing for clients. One of them being the monitoring, where the scenario might be you have IT staff where we're going to actually monitor and send alerts to, where your staff would actually act upon those alerts. You have the remote management where we would come in remotely, help you with any kind of break fix. Also includes the monitoring. And at the very end of this, we have the enterprise management where we offer a full spectrum of services from the monitoring management, the patch management, the working with your vendors on any kind of break fix. We actually offer direct user support. And also we have what we call the CIO services where we can actually help you with your technology road mapping. So you're not waiting until the last minute to do an upgrade like 2003. So, and I think that's about it.
All right. So thank you for that, Baron. So as I mentioned earlier in the webcast, we're now going to move into our Q&A. So if you have any questions for our cloud panel today, please enter those in the questions box now, and we'll address those live. So now we'll get to a couple questions that have come through thus far. So first up, if I am interested in cloud as a Windows Server 2003 solution, what's next? So I can hand that one over to Ali.
Sure. So in terms of engagement, you can either reach out if you do have a partner that you're working with or a dinCloud reseller. You can go through them and reach out. You can also call into our cloud specialist team, and they'd be able to also support you either through the main line, which is the 424-286-2300, or if you wanted to have a form filled out, or you can also email us with Tara's email. I think that'll be at the end of the slides. So those would be the first piece in terms of getting more information, or if you wanted to speak specifically about your environment, and then Michael or Baron would definitely be able to help you out as well. And then the next step from there is basically evaluating the environment, what it would take to do the migration, and then at that point you can also get some cost estimates pretty early on, just to understand what it takes to go from an on-premise environment to a cloud environment, or maybe you're on one cloud and you want to move to dinCloud. So all those, we can easily help you assess that as soon as possible so that you're not too far down the path without knowing cost and estimates.
Okay. Next question. Do you have any integration with ConnectWise? So perhaps Waleed, if you're able to take that one.
When you, I guess ConnectWise, I don't recall what is that. If someone.
Yeah, we can have the requester just reply back with a little bit more information there, and if we're not able to address that online, we can always address that.
I can actually address that, Nancy.
Oh,
as far
perfect.
as integration into ConnectWise, the monitoring and remote management piece of it, we can configure alerts to go to a ConnectWise email address, but there is no direct integration with it. It can provide alerts into ConnectWise, but they're not going to be self-healing alerts.
Okay. Thank you for that. So next question, any guidance on how to size servers so that we don't overbuy?
Was the question any guidance on how many servers so we don't overbuy? Was that the question?
How to size servers so that we don't overbuy?
That's absolutely part of the managed migration process. When we assess the workload, we'll determine what size your servers would be and what you would need based on the number of users you have, the current usage, and different factors. And many different applications have different pieces to that puzzle. So it is definitely something we can provide guidance on.
All right, thank you for that. So this one will put out a last call for questions if we have any final questions, and we can enter those down. We can also follow up if you think of anything after the webcast today. So the last question that I have currently is, what is a ballpark figure for a basic managed service?
So for dinCloud, I mean, our servers start out at $78 per month. As far as management, I'm going to let Michael speak to that, but a little bit to tell you what this actually includes. It comes with 1 gig of RAM, 1 CPU, and 80 gig hard drive. That's our very basic, and that goes for a 2012 server or a 2008 server. Of course, you can adjust that as to what you need from a storage and compute and a RAM perspective. But I'll let Michael speak about the managed portion of it. Go ahead, Michael.
You want to answer that, Michael, or do you want me to?
Yeah, Baron, can you take that one?
Sure. There's a different level of complexity on a lot of these servers. Well, so we can give like a ballpark figure for your general support for your server, and we'll say around $160 a month. And that includes all the patch management, the antivirus, the 24/7 monitoring, the email support, as well as actually a toll-free number support.
All right, thank you for that. And we can always follow up and give you a more custom assessment. And I should also add that for Windows Server 2003 migrations, there are some special incentives that we can offer for those who are looking to move over before the deadline. So if you are interested, contact us via the website, and we can assess your individual needs and, of course, recommend a course of action from there. So with that, I'm not seeing any additional questions come through at this time, so we can go ahead and wrap up for today. I would like to, before we do so, thank our cloud panel for their content and for participating in our Q&A today. So thank you, Ali Din, Waleed Elamary, Baron Wolf, and Michael Hull. And for those of you who attended, I would like to remind you to please take our survey after the fact and let us know how we did. Additionally, stay tuned to dincloud.com/webinars for future webinar sessions, and if you'd like to access this recording on demand. So again, thanks to you all for joining us today, and have a great day.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.